cameras are here already. Thank you for keeping us straight. You're welcome.
Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk. This is an insider's guide to real estate life and the pursuit of happiness. It's presented by the Yes Team Realtors, trusted advisors in the game, Keith and Yonna Smith of the Yes Team Realtors. Keith Davis, so another Keith on set. There's only one Keith that's number one in my book, though, and that's Keith Smith. But Keith Davis, he's a very legitimate dude, the principal broker of Nest Realty. This guy, A-plus people.
Very much so.
I'm very excited to welcome him to the show. Judah Wickower, studio camera, and let's welcome the distinguished gentleman to the broadcast. Good morning, my friend.
Thank you. I'll have to figure out how to write backwards if we're ever going to use the whiteboard. That didn't quite work out as well as I thought it would.
Facebook doesn't know what we're talking about. Instagram got a chuckle, but Facebook doesn't know what we're talking about.
I was trying to do a whiteboard thing, and it just didn't work out so good. So we'll try a different way. So yeah, I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm excited about talking to Keith D, as we call it, and a little personal thing. Every once in a while, I'll get an email that was intended for him that comes from me. And I'll pick up the phone and I'll go, yeah, you know, Keith, I think maybe this was meant for you.
When that email comes in and says, I'm looking to list an $800,000 home, can you help me with this? Do you forward those over?
Absolutely, I do.
I know you do.
Absolutely, I do.
Because you're an honorable man.
Because he'd do the other way around.
I know he would.
Absolutely.
I know he would. Has that ever happened?
No, they're usually different issues, let's say.
Are they like admin issues? And you're like, I'll gladly forward this to Keith Davis.
We are not going to go down that road.
Okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just as I always say, if I was doing any better, it'd be illegal. I tried this whole whiteboard thing. I just got to move on from it, and we'll try a different way. But I'm excited to talk with Keith. You know, there's a couple high level things we're going to talk a little bit about that National Association of Realtors are doing, and I really want to try to get into, you know, his read on the market the rest of this year. That's why I had that whiteboard. And
does he know about our bet?
You know, we'll talk about that because that's literally what I was gonna ask him about. So we'll dial him in and we'll try to do that without the aid of graphics.
Yeah. No slides?
The whiteboard is what I was trying today.
You mean for Instagram? We still have it for Facebook.
No, because I didn't do slides. I was all going to do it on whiteboard. So
gotcha.
we'll adapt and overcome.
Yeah, like we always do, my friend.
We'll always do it.
I'm going to reach out to Keith Davis now. While I do, how about some insight into what you love about this man?
I know, other than he's just got this awesome first name.
Keith.
You know,
what do you like about Keith Davis, Keith Smith? His first name?
His first name. You know, he even though we're competitors, right, and to a certain extent, he's always treated me with respect and actually listened to what I had to say. And conversely back, you know, we engage in conversation. So to me, that's the way it's supposed to be, right? You're supposed to be respectful of one another, and even though we might see a little bit differently, we might end up being on another side of a transaction. Maybe some of this is what's actually missing in today's world, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that today. How, you know, we're on two different sides of a fence sometimes on issues, but at the end of the day, we can go out and have a taco at Brazo Taco or a cup of coffee or a drink and talk about family and stuff like that.
I love it. Keith Davis, if you're watching, we're trying to reach out to you now via Skype. You touched base with him before the show. Is that right, Judah? You may want to send him...
He's probably working on an $800,000 listing.
You may want to send him a text real quick and say, we're trying to Skype him now. I sent him a message via Skype text as we speak. In fact, we got him on the line now. Fantastic. Keith Davis, We got you, my friend. 1 second. I'm getting the thumbs up from our director now. Okay, so Keith, you're live in Charlottesville. Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world. Here on the I Love CVille Network, you have 4 different states watching the show as we speak. We have 5 firms in Central Virginia, 1 in Richmond, and 1 in Northern Virginia watching you. Keith Davis, you are live now. Before we talk shop, and I'm going to turn this computer around so you can see the distinguished gentleman himself, Keith Smith. But before I do, how about Keith Davis, an introduction to yourself personally for everyone that's watching this program?
Hey, Jerry, thanks so much for having me. And Keith, thanks for inviting me back on again. I love being here with you. And I agree that I do have a fabulous first name. What Keith doesn't understand is my first name is not Keith. Yeah. That's the beautiful part. Yeah. So he's going to call out that my name's Walker. But, but you're right. Great first names. I agree.
I like Walker.
Since we're sharing, my middle name is Brian. And I get called Brian more often than I get called Keith, by the way. So.
Hey, question for you, Jerry. Since I haven't done the Skype calls with you, I'm getting weird volume. I can't turn it up using my volume switch. Do you know how Skype controls volume on this thing?
I'll tell you what. You're coming in loud and clear now. You may
hover over the mic at the bottom.
Okay, what is that?
Hover over the mic at the bottom.
He says hover. Our director says hover over the mic at the bottom, and you can turn the volume up that way. Keith Davis.
All right, we'll see. Oh, yes, you can. Jonah's a man. Love it. All right.
Judah, but that's okay. So
Judah. See, the whole name is the problem, right?
That's right.
This is where we're all going wrong.
I think Judah gets Jonah more than Judah as well, to be honest. Speaking of Walker more than Keith. See, he does.
How did we go down this?
I'll tell you, I mean, honestly, Keith is going to say the same thing. I don't know what it is with people and inability to remember names, but Keith and Kevin are like the interchangeable names. And I can't say why, but I think I probably get called Kevin 30% of the time by people who don't know me well.
As long as they're willing to sign that $800,000 contract, you can call me whatever you want.
I thought you said it was only about money with me.
Yeah, well, only kidding. But it's the same thing. I get called Kevin or Steve for whatever reason.
Steve?
Yeah, who knows?
I don't get Steve.
So we're going to talk a little bit about real estate, maybe,
Let's
guys?
do it. I would love to.
The name kind of stuff. So do me a favor for those that are watching who don't know you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the firm, and then we'll jump into a couple of different things.
So Keith Davis, been practicing real estate 14, 15 years in Charlottesville. Was involved in mortgage banking and other real estate related components going back as early as, I guess, my first job was in 92 in the mortgage industry. So been around the industry for a little bit of time. We, along with Jonathan Kaufman and Jim Duncan, we started Nest Realty here in Charlottesville back in 2008. And we're now stretching out by end of January, we'll be in about 20 locations across the country. So we're having a lot of fun doing it. It's been, and I will tell you, 2020, despite the fact that it has been pandemic and has been pretty miserable news and on almost every front all over the place, real estate has been one of the sweet spots, and it's been quite the year for real estate firms. Good stuff.
So I know we wanted to talk a little bit about some technical stuff with National Association Realtors and what they're calling the Clear Cooperation Policy. But before we jump into that, I did not know you were in the mortgage industry, so I learned something. Every time I do an interview with somebody, I learn something new.
What years was that, Keith Davis?
I can't remember if it was 91 or I guess it was 92. I got into it. Was working for Central Fidelity, which then became Wachovia, which then became Wells Fargo. They had started a mortgage brokerage business in the Richmond office, made up of a bunch of Bank of America folk from the Charlottesville area, actually, run by a guy named Bryant Baird, phenomenal CEO, back in the 90s, and it was a ton of fun. This was when interest rates were dropping quickly from the 9% range down into the low 7s, and everybody just thought this was the greatest market we could ever experience. I got to do a piece got involved in, started with processing, back office processing, and then I made possibly the worst career choice any human could ever make, and it went into compliance. And if you want to be the most loathed person in the entire banking industry, compliance is your spot. All you did was pick up the phone, and people immediately hung up on you and didn't want to talk to you and didn't want to know why you were calling, and it was not fun. But so that was my start to the mortgage business. So a little bit of secondary market work and a ton of HMDA compliance, fair housing stuff. That was my entree.
So our three-way chemistry is working, because as you're talking, I'm making notes, and one of them was, what was the interest rates back in then? And just to, again, to put it in perspective, we're at sub 3, right? In some cases, hovering around 3. That's just.
I took out an ARM in a purchase. We closed in January of '94. That was my first mortgage, and it was a 6.875% ARM. And damned if I didn't feel like that was the best thing you'd ever had. It was amazing.
For those who watch the shows know that Yonna and I, when we bought our first house in the mid-'80s, we had 18% and was like doing the dance of joy. Whoa, we actually, the interest rate wasn't the issue. The issue was, hey, we actually got a mortgage.
Yeah, you got a mortgage, right.
Right. And to move on. So it's a little granular, right? This clear cooperation policy that NAR has put out, National Association of Realtors. We have lots of different folks watching the show, from real estate agents to business folks to elected officials. So can you just give like a quick overview on what it is, and more importantly, how it potentially may impact the buyer and the seller?
Yeah, and it's first off, NAR and every large organization is great at making up horrible names for things that are really quite simple. The Clear Cooperation Policy, MLS 8.0, was what it kind of launched as. Started, I guess it was voted on in November of last year. So we're almost up to a year now of knowing it was coming. It went into effect in Charlottesville, I think May 1st. Does that sound right? April 1st, May 1st, somewhere in that range. And from the technical standpoint, it just seems so logical. It seems like such the right thing to do, and that is, it's an agreement that if you are a Realtor member, that you will not show any property to people outside of your firm unless you show it openly and equally to every single Realtor member of every other firm. And it's pretty simple, that I can't pick and choose who I want to work with. And from the client standpoint, this just plain makes sense, right? We've talked forever about the fact that pocket listings, and we can go back and we'll kind of define some of this stuff in a second, but pocket listings just don't really serve sellers all that well. It's an opportunity for a realtor to not expose a property to the market, right? And we're big free market people. We believe that real estate's all about how many people look at properties and getting competition on them. And you look at every other large high value asset in the world, and everything's done by auction, right? It's not just one person in a room deciding whether they want to buy a piece of art. It's getting 1,000 people in the room and seeing how many people want to buy it and who's willing to pay the most money for it. And I think that's the same thing with real estate. And that's the way we think of it, is that the more people who are exposed to it, the better chance it is that you're going to find that perfect buyer and that they'll compete for the highest price. And that's the policy, right? That's the idea. The impact has been really jarring. And I think most of us in the business love the spirit of this. And Keith, butt in and tell me, if you think I'm going on the wrong track, but this is a rule where fair housing came into play, right? This is about how to ensure that if you're working with a brand new agent, or you're working with an agent in a small firm, or you're who may not have the same coffee water cooler conversations with agents, that you're not put at a disadvantage. And I think when you look at the rule from that standpoint, it just plain makes sense. It's the right way to sell real estate. But there are so many loopholes in this policy and the way that it's being utilized. It's causing real problems in the market. One of the rules and one of the pieces is that if your client requests it, you can still have an in-house listing. You can still do, if you come to a Nest agent, you want to list with Nest, you can ask the Nest agent to show it only within the Nest family. and I can allow all my agents to go and view and show properties and write contracts on each other's homes without it ever going into the MLS and without ever being in the market. And you would think, well, nobody would do this because it's not in the best interest of the seller, and yet it's happening all the time.
Why would that happen? Why would that happen?
Well, I think, Jerry, let's ask why the rule even exists, right? Why do we even allow it? And I'll say, if you are a high-profile executive, or you are a high-profile employee of the university, you are a physician who runs a big department at the university, and you have decided that it is in your best interest to take a job as head of cardiology at the Cleveland Clinic. Fantastic opportunity, right? You're going to want to do that, but it might be a 3 to 6 month transition period for you, and perhaps you're not telling people in your own department, and you don't want your house to be openly advertised on the market. Gotcha. I know that there are figures in this market who are very high profile people, entertainment industry, sports industry, who do not want their house to be on an open house tour, do not want people the likes of me and Keith showing their property, because our clients aren't the ones who can afford the $22 million properties in Western Albemarle. And so they pocket list it. They quietly work with agents who work within that arena. And I think there are cases where it can be beneficial. But what's happening is that firms have established a practice of showing properties within the firm itself, and giving an opportunity to their own buyer clients instead of putting it openly on the market, because this is now allowed. And when another agent finds out and hears about it, they reach out and they say, "Hey, Keith, I want to see your property on Main Street." And Keith says, "I'm sorry, it's not active. I can't show it to you." And it's a tough one, Jerry. It's weird. It's very strange.
So define, we're talking pocket listings, but if you could define pocket listing a little bit more, you kind of articulated the higher end, but what does that look like in, say, the everyday transaction?
Well, the question is, why is it in your client's best interest in the everyday transaction? And I'm not sure that I understand why a pocket listing would ever be. Again, like I said, we sell art by getting as many people to bid on it. Just look at the number of competing offers that we're seeing in the market today, right? You put a house in Belmont on the market, and if it's reasonably priced, you will have a dozen showings and you'll have multiple offers on it. Key is if it's reasonably priced, and we're seeing a fair number. And I should have pulled the number before I came on this morning. I'm sorry for not doing it. Maybe you already did, Keith. What percentage of properties have traded over asking price this year? Do you know?
I do not know that, but that's a great question.
That's a great question.
All right,
I would love to know that.
So I am sure. Right now.
Excuse me, Keith. If anybody's watching and they can dive into the Paragon, let us know.
That's what I was going to say. Hey, Quentin, if you're on, go pull the number and find out, because I would wager that in the sub 500,000 market, that we're probably in the 5 to 10% range overprice that are selling for more than asking. Wow. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. We'll find out. But I think those are hard, compelling numbers. They're reasons to have a bidding war, and I think. There are some agents who have really masterfully started using this new rule to say, I'm going to promote the product, I'm going to promote the house before it goes on the market for a couple of days, and we're going to open it up for showings with an excited buyer base, and we're going to show it to as many people as we can in that period of 14 days or whatever, and or 3 days, and we'll get as many offers as we can. I think they're doing it very well. And the clear cooperation policy, again, the spirit of it is spot on. It makes total sense. It's a very hard practice to work with on a daily basis.
To go back to the why a little bit, why I would not suggest that or use that or do that. We're going to talk about on the back half of the project, of the program, FSBOs, right? And you're welcome to join us with that conversation if you want. But one of the things we're going to talk about, and per National Association Realtors numbers, pre-COVID, around 44% of the buyers started on that iPhone or started online. It's up over 93% now, and it is expected to go up. So if you do these pocket listings, you put a sign in the ground and hopefully somebody calls in, you as a seller, your level of exposure is just not there. And
Keith, you can't put a sign in the ground for a pocket listing.
That's exactly right.
As soon as the sign goes in the ground, you can't show the house anymore.
Well, that's under the new rule, but I think answering the question why people were doing it, that's what they would.
Oh, sure.
That's kind of the genesis of this rule on that, so that the buyer and the seller we all get a look at it. The two Keiths get an opportunity to look at it instead of Mr. and Mrs. Miller driving by and seeing the sign. Now, certain markets that Yonna and I are in, we get this all the time. Hey, because inventory is so low, hey, I saw this sign. I want to get in there and look at it, and then we need to have this conversation. I'm sorry, we can't show it for another whatever number of days. It's in this coming soon status, but it's a little. This is a little high level stuff. I guess what I kind of wanted to take away from the folks that are watching, we sometimes get asked by real estate agents, why do I pay dues, right? Keith, sometimes you get that question, right? This is an exact. Occasionally. This is a darn good reason why, right? Hopefully next week there's a thing running through the National Association of Realtors about retweaking our social media regulations.
How so?
Well, you want to tackle that one, Keith?
Oh, you really want to go there, Keith?
I do not want to go there, Keith. But the point I'm trying to get at is that. We get asked this question all the time. What are my dues paying for? And this is something that, the group realized there was an issue, and they kind of.
So what can't you do on social now?
Well, what you can't do on social, what you should always never have done on social, and you should never do, period, ever, is discriminate.
Oh, that was okay. Yes, thank you. I'm glad that rule's in place.
Right, and is it not crazy that we're sitting here in 2020 saying this is now a rule? I mean, this is, and here's the crazy part, Jerry. This is about social media and people getting into rows in the comment section of Facebook and other things, which I'm sure never happens within the community of listeners you have here. But these, people. Over this summer with Black Lives Matter and things going on in different markets, it's become a pretty strenuous conversation in a lot of markets, and realtors are regularly a part of those conversations. And this is not talking about in a realtor mindset. This is just talking about in your conversations online when you're dealing with things. How do you, as you are a realtor member and you are representing the realtor brand at all times, and your code of ethics says you got to be a fair housing person. And what they're saying is you can't go online on social media and start going after any of the protected classes. And
the fact that we're even saying this blows my mind.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're having to say this at all. That's exactly right. It's
regardless of being a real estate agent or just being a human being. I just don't get it. But the point I was trying to make is that we talk about National Association of Realtors all the time on this show, and these are things that your dues get if you're a real estate agent. We pay a substantial amount of money every year to be members for these organizations, and you get this kind of great feedback. Plus, I love their stats because
you love their stats.
We're numbers guys, and we get all excited about stats. Speaking of which, you want to go ahead? Go ahead, Keith.
All I was going to say, I don't want to kind of get off of our pocket listing conversation, clear cooperation. I want to throw out one thing because we were talking about how this impacts buyers and sellers, and I think just to point to the sincerity of the realtor community of being behind this. Carr last week, and Keith, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think it was this week. I think it was last week. Carr signed an agreement with the largest MLS provider in the entire East Coast that stretches basically from just above our northern border of where Carr goes. So Madison County and Orange County, I guess, are as far south as this MLS goes, called Bright MLS, and it goes through Northern Virginia, through Pennsylvania, through Delaware, through Maryland, some parts of West Virginia, I think, are part of it as well. Anyway, we've signed an agreement to data share with them, which means that we're going to, as realtors in the Charlottesville community, when you list with a Charlottesville agent, your listing is now going to be pushed out to some 25,000 members of Bright. Do you know the number, Keith?
Well, it's I almost was going to say it's huge, but then that would be a horrible thing to say. So,
Yeah, so we've got, you've got 1,200 realtors in Charlottesville who are selling your property already. And now we're tying in the entire Bright MLS. And do I think that agents from Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are going to suddenly start showing up in Charlottesville? No. But I will tell you right now that the number one agent in Charlottesville, if you look at buyer representation, is agent from outside the MLS. Right?
Yeah.
We have more transactions happening with agents outside the MLS than we do with any single agent within CAR. Which isn't that surprising, really, if you think about it. I mean, that's a ton of transactions that happen from outside. But there are more and more agents from outside our area whose clients are looking in multiple areas, and they live in Fredericksburg, and they're looking in Charlottesville, and their agents working with them. So the Bright MLS, again, the whole point of that kind of agreement, this data sharing agreement that we formed, as I understand it, our whole goal in this is to expose your property to even more buyers and even more agents, and to accept and kind of invite in a greater cooperation of agents from outside our area. So, the clear cooperation policy, this idea of wanting to work with each other, and Keith's saying before I got on the air that, one of the benefits is that we are competitors, but we still cooperate on a daily basis. It's true of all the realtors out there. That's how we make our living, is by forming good relationships with other agents, and that's the value that we're bringing to the table. Is that we know the people on the other side of the table, and we've worked with them. We all, we have regular communication skills that transcend that one transaction. And I think the bright kind of data sharing kind of ties in with what we're talking about for clear cooperation.
And you're dovetailing it into what I want to talk about in the back half of the show, which is why, at the end of the day, you should use a real estate agent or a realtor, which I cannot pronounce for the life of me. So I'll call it a real estate professional through it, because just what we just talked about right now. Because one of the things is your limited exposure. We now just have 25,000, whatever it is, that's going to be looking at. So we put Mr. and Mrs. Miller's house on the market. All that data now just gets exploded. And from a guy that's in the social media world, you kind of understand that. So it just gets exploded, and the level of touches that can come back in there. And from a reality perspective, I don't know how you and your team are seeing things, Keith, but on our end of it, we're seeing more outside folks coming in than people going out. I don't know. I mean, I think. Yeah, I don't know many of our agents that work outside of our area. Like my own, within the Nest family. I don't know many nesters that work outside of our market. But we certainly have those who live in Orange County and Greene County who do work in the Madison and Culpeper. They will transfer over that line. I mean, Jerry, think of it this way. Think of if you're trying to build the I Love CVille Network and you put out a restriction to all of your viewers that says you cannot share any of this content. I own this content. I want to own this. Imagine how small your viewership would be.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Right, and this is the exact same. This is the question of IDX, right? We've had IDX out there forever, the Internet Data Exchange. This is a question of why I allow Nest listings to be shown on Roy Wheeler's website, right? And why we show Roy Wheeler's, because we're all sharing. We all want to have as many people have as much exposure to the products that we're selling, which are homes, and they are lifestyles, and that's what we do. Same thing you're doing with sharing on Facebook, and people using this medium. This is what it's about. So trying to clamp down and claim ownership of it is just not a great future for where we go.
Rising tide raises all boats.
Bingo.
Right. It's not that complicated.
So you want to talk about your slides, do you, Keith?
Well, I'm going to pivot on you a little bit because we need to talk market.
Ooh. I would love to hear his thoughts on the market.
We need to talk market, So Jerry and I have a little bet going on. I don't know if you've been able to watch the show or not, but we got a bet going on here, and I have a whiteboard here. I was trying to write some numbers down, didn't quite work out because, duh.
Do you want me to start drawing numbers?
Well, the problem is they're read backwards
for the viewers.
For the viewer.
So I'm gonna segue for 1 second. Did you all see the video of this professor who created a put a acrylic panel in front of her, and she writes normally, but she's got a camera that's flipping the image. So when she's talking to her students, she's drawing on a screen between her that is correctly flipped, Keith, not showing up on Instagram and mirror images.
That's we literally just went through that this morning.
I know.
Yeah. Smith's.
You were live doing that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, really. Dun, dun. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate the kind words.
He's got jokes. I love it.
He's got. Oh yeah. He's
actually, got jokes.
He's actually being well reserved at the moment. I'm trying to pull the Keith
behaving.
I'm trying to pull the real Keith out. So look, we have a bet going on, Jerry and I, over a bottle of really good bourbon that we're doing an over and under, right? That the fourth quarter of this year will exceed the second quarter of 19
in sales volume, but we're taking out new construction.
We take new construction. So I've got a.
So you're saying fourth quarter 2020 resale closes or contracts?
Closes. Beats Q2 2019 resale, taking out new construction.
I would have to take the Q2 2019 number.
Thank you, Keith Davis.
So
okay. Smith took Q4 2020.
I took Q4 2020.
It's going to be close. There's no, but no. I just think there's too. Our Q2 numbers are always too high. I mean, I will say the closes happen Q3 normally, right? I mean, it's the contract writing in Q2 that's so high. But no, I'm still going to go with Q2. Do you have that exact number out there, and do you know how many are under contract right now?
I
do. 2 weeks ago.
I do. That's
what you got them right now.
That's what I was trying to do on the whiteboard, but it didn't quite.
You have them right now.
Okay.
I do. So
all right. So where are we, Keith?
So as of from 10/1 to date, we have 157 units closed. We need to hit the number I got to hit is I've got to go over 675. Just total close. So we're at 157 first 17 days in closed. I got to do 676 units.
How many do we have under contract?
Yeah, what are pending right now? What are pending?
You ready? So I'm counting 9/1, right? Because those are going to close in 10, right?
Yeah, he's counting Q3 pendings.
Right. So whatever went under pending as of 9/1, because it's not going to technically they don't close in 30 days, right? So they're going to close into that. We're at 465 in pending from 9/1 to date.
Plus the one.
No, 465 is total, right? 465 is total with the pendings.
That is pending. That's in pending.
Gotcha.
And what Keith's saying, you have to add the 157 to that. That's assuming all the 465 closes, plus the 157. Yeah. Right. I think we'll find out, but it's gonna. I don't think this is gonna be a blowout. If I win, it's probably going to be like this.
And did we say units or total sales volume by dollars?
Both.
Okay. We said units and total sales volume.
I just didn't pull the dollar numbers for this.
Understood.
I was just doing units right now.
Okay.
But
look, I think if our units comes close, then our volume's going to go over.
Definitely.
Well, I think we're running about 4%.
We've got enough price appreciation.
Yeah. We're running about 4% year over year on the positive side. So it's. Well, there's a bottle of bourbon riding on this thing. So
either way, we both win.
Either way, we both win because we're going to end up having some bourbon.
We're going to be drinking, and then the real estate market, which we're involved in, is doing well.
Yeah,
you can't go. So, Davis? What do you think? What do you think of 2021? I mean, do we think it's going to go gangbusters into next year?
So I'm going to back up 6 months and talk about kind of what we were saying back then and how wrong we were. Because I think, Jim Duncan, one of his favorite comments to make is always, you want to know how the market is? Ask me in 6 months, right? Yeah. We don't know till it's behind us really. But I think back in the beginning of this year, I don't know if you'll remember, but every presidential election year, we have this conversation of the fact that the market is going to be tepid. They're going to be concerned. There's anxiety. People are waiting to see who the president is before they make a decision. And suddenly, typically, the fourth quarter of an election year doesn't really matter who wins. Fourth quarter, people tend to be like, "Oh, that's what's going to happen. Okay, it's going to be the same as it's always been, or it's going to be the new guy that everybody wanted. Yay!" Depending upon which side you take, right? And I think people tend to loosen up. The reality is, we've been on fire the whole year. Like, there's nothing that's been holding people back. The fact that we are sitting in a global pandemic, that we are talking about a market that back in March, I wish we did have the ability to share screens with your viewers, because there's a set of things that we can look at called showing time that show how many times lock boxes have been opened in different markets. And it's amazing, man. You go along and things are going, and then March 13th happens, and it's just this plummeting of showings. The assumption is if nobody shows houses, nobody can sell houses. Well, guess what? It took like 2 weeks before those showings started coming back up, and within a month, they were back to 80% of what they had been the year prior, and we're now showing more frequently. I think those numbers say there's still a pent-up demand of buyers. We've had too little inventory for too long. The interest rates are so low. I do a regular economic update for Nest agents, and the three numbers that I look at constantly are unemployment numbers, consumer confidence numbers, and interest rates. We've talked about the interest rates. Everybody knows where they are. They're obscenely low, and it's going to be a long time before they're in impact again. The two that you really need to look at that are driving what's going on right now, and they're kind of intertwined, interrelated, are the consumer confidence numbers, either using the Michigan sentiment number or what's out of the conference board. Those numbers are getting a little bit more leery of the future, but they're still good. They're still positive. The one that scares everybody is the unemployment. And, COVID gave us the biggest spike ever of unemployment. The claims are way up. People are not in many markets are not back to work. They tend not to be the home buyer public economic, stratus there. And so in one sense, our little band of buyers continues working, and the upper, our luxury market, those guys have had the best year ever in terms of economic output. So I got to tell you, Jerry, I don't see any reason why we're going to slow down right now. I don't see anything happening until the unemployment numbers either stop getting lower. If we feel like we've leveled off on unemployment, then I think that's going to start spooking people, and that will cause the consumer confidence levels to fall. And when that happens, I do think we'll finally have a slowdown in the market. But right now, there's still so much pent-up demand. I don't know. I don't see us slowing down anytime in the next 6 months.
No, so I got a haircut yesterday. That's the first thing the barber asked me. What's going to happen in 2021? I want to buy a house. Right, that's the first question he asked me, and what do you think the interest rates are going to go? Where do you think all these things that you get asked, everybody's asking on it. So in March, honestly, did you think we were going to get such a steep V recovery on the?
No.
Yeah,
No.
I did. I just felt that the pent up demand was such there that we were going to have a little short V and then get up, and it wasn't any of my going. I was just reading a lot of smart people and just regurgitating some of that out that way. So look, Keith, in order, what we're going to probably do here is we're going to wrap up this a little bit and turn this way. Jerry can turn it around, because I'm sure there's a bunch of people on the feed asking questions. So if you don't mind, if you can respond on the chat box into it, so we can kind of go into that, because this only works one way on the video end of it. Is that something you're good with?
Oh, okay. Sure. So you're saying in the chat box on Facebook, or
yeah,
the chat box here on where you want me to be responding here on Skype?
No, on the Facebook box, if you don't mind that, because the way this is set up, Jerry can't read.
All I have to do is throw him the questions. That's all we got to say.
Okay, got it. All right,
so you got. I'll throw you the questions here, and all
look
you
at this,
have to
I'm
do
learning.
is response here. So Quentin Beckham is watching. He goes, "It's the two Keefs." I'm really happy. Ray Cadell's watching. He is loving what he's hearing right here. So Keith Davis, this question's coming in for you. interest rates, this is coming in from a broker in Richmond. If interest rates stay at where they're at, Keith Davis, how do you see this impacting the luxury market like you've already talked about? Do you still seeing it having the momentum it's had in the back half of 2020 into 2021? That's from a broker in Richmond.
All right, so I understand I am not on. You're not getting my audio, correct?
No, we are.
Oh, we can hear you. Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
Keith,
I think you were saying.
no,
you wanted
Keith,
to
that
put
was
in
my
the chat
mistake.
box, my
Keith.
response. So I'm like getting ready to type away responses. I'm like, man, this is going to be boring. I think the luxury market, given where the stock market is, given where people are looking to, I think there is real question as to whether the market is overvalued in terms of the equity market. And I think for luxury, that drives as much as anything. I think people are going to be, they're still looking to take out profits and still looking to move them into a different asset class, and that's the real estate. So yeah, I think we're going to see the luxury market continuing to move, and certainly Richmond has seen the growth of the over $1.5 million properties in Richmond has just been amazing, and I don't see any reason why that's going to slow down.
This one's coming in for you, Keith Davis. This is a good question. Can we throw out the unemployment rate as a negative factor in the Charlottesville real estate market since inventory is so low and a ton of people are moving here for jobs? Is this market an anomaly from an unemployment standpoint? That's a good question. What do you think, Keith Davis?
Throw it out? No. Is it as important as it has been in previous years? Probably not. But throwing it out, definitely not. And here's the reason. If you've got, if we have the highest unemployment rate in Charlottesville, even if it's not the home buyer public who is no longer employed, that is impacting everybody in our local economy, and it is impacting the restaurant workers, which is impacting the landlords, and the landlords are impacting the home buyer public. So I don't think you can throw it out. And I think you will also find, UVA's been on a hiring freeze. There are lots of companies that are on a hiring freeze. CFA Institute announced some major job reductions, although they're being extremely generous with severance packages. So I think the unemployment rate's going to impact us. It has to. We do have pent up demand, but I think you can't throw that unemployment out.
What do you think, Keith Smith?
Ditto. I agree. You can never throw that out. If it doesn't matter if it's one person, if you're unemployed, it's a recession. Right. So, but it is a key indicator. As Keith has mentioned, though, it is kind of recovering. And then, as he also mentioned, that unfortunately, the folks that are most unemployed are currently renting. They're not in the purchase arena. But that's why we're pushing so hard with the Regional Housing Partnership and some of the other stuff that I'm doing.
We got multiple agents asking us to bring up the topic we brought up last week when in regards to Zillow. Do you want to set the stage for that for Keith Davis?
Yeah, sure. That'd be great. Two things basically happened, and we kind of did this live, Keith, was when Zillow announced that Zillow is basically hiring its own agents and is becoming a broker.
Yeah. And
the second thing, which I thought was far more important, is they're going to be using IDX in lieu of all these 10,000 different agreements they would have with these different MLS systems. So, when you and I had lunch the other day talking about this, I didn't bring that up, so I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Look, I think anyone who hasn't thought that Zillow was a brokerage for the last few years has been putting their head in the sand. This doesn't surprise me. It doesn't change anything in my mind. Look, the market constantly changes in who our competition is and how our competition operates. And this is just yet another place. I mean, I think Zillow is going to have to thread a pretty fine needle with staying making money as a brokerage and then giving up the potential revenue that they have from premier agents and from from people who are paying them heavy ad dollars. The vast majority of their revenue still comes from ad dollars. And so I think they're going to have to be very careful with how they play this game and the number of markets in which they participate. But the iBuyer program has been growing ever since Spencer Raskoff left and Rich Barton came back to the helm. They've directed more towards that's what their intent is. And look, it's different in different markets that we operate in, we have different competition, and we stay true to who we are as a firm. We hire the same types of people, and we operate with a singular kind of focus of what our intent is as a firm, and we're going to keep doing that. Zillow is just another competitor for us, and they're obviously a massive competitor. I'm not. Please don't think that I'm underestimating what their potential is, but it's not the end of the world. I'm not a Zillow hater. I don't think that they've been the end of our industry. I don't think they're going to be the demise of realtors worldwide. I think there's a lot of big questions as to how. The biggest question I have with them is they're now a member of they intend to become realtor members,
exactly
and that is going to change the way they have to operate. So that's going to be the big question in my mind.
Literally, that's where. So that was my takeaway on this, and I agree 100%. Zillow's going to be Zillow. It's going to be in the market. It's been in the market. It's going to continue. I'm loving the fact that they're in our IDX because we just talked about clear cooperation, right?
Yeah, levels the playing field.
We spent 10, 15 minutes talking about that. Guess what? They need to comply by that.
That's right.
They need to comply with the 50-something pages of Charlottesville Association's MLS rules, right? And if they don't, either Keith D or Keith S is going to drop a proverbial dime on them and report them, right?
You're going to drop the dime. Quentin Beckham says this, Keith, this is from Quentin Beckham, I think the unemployment has its effect in the financial realm and also the confidence realm, and to discount that would be a mistake. So he's agreeing with you guys.
Yeah.
This is from another agent in regards to new construction. Do you see a dip in new construction in 2021, Keith, with not as much land available in the city and Albemarle County?
You want to take that one,
No.
Keith D?
No. New construction. The biggest issue with new construction right now is that back when COVID started, we made some really bad assumptions as an industry about the buyer appetite going forward, and the loggers stopped producing wood for a period, and we've come up with real shortages. It's causing delays. It's causing price increases in the building materials. That's going to have to work its way through. But I'll tell you right now, most of our builders in the Charlottesville market, and I'm not speaking for other areas because I don't have any numbers for those other markets of people who may be listening. Our Charlottesville guys, man, they're already writing contracts that are delivering in October and December of 2021. So I don't know. I don't see 2021 is not going to slow down one bit.
So
not on the new construction.
So without divulging too much specific details, there's a client of mine and Yonna that we're working with that hopefully by the end of 2021 there'll be 325 residential units in Fluvanna County. So
awesome.
It's these things are in pipelines, and I think that's the biggest fear is how long does it take to produce inventory so we can put houses on it. But Keith said no. I'm going to say hell no. New construction is not going to slow down. It's going to keep on rocking and rolling. The only restriction is going to be is inventory. And all these guys that are doing all this work, they've been planning for this 2 or 3 years or 4 years back. This particular project I'm talking about, we've been working on it for 5 years, right? But it's now come to the point that it's going to start producing 2021, late 2021. On that. So no new construction. It's just going to be at different locations, I think. You're going to see it more in Zions Crossroads.
Well, that's what this person was asking, the city in Albemarle County specifically.
Yeah.
So you're saying maybe not so much in the city in Albemarle County.
Well, you will. The city, and Keith.
The city's, there's no land.
Yeah, the city new construction.
Yeah, actually, no, but that's the thing. There is.
There is?
Right? So, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right now, I mean, I say, yeah, like excitedly. No, Lachlan Hill, which is the largest neighborhood development that's taken place in the city since Johnson Village, is sitting on 25 acres, only about 1/3 of which has actually been constructed upon. The phase 3, which is probably another 50 units, 60 units, that's underway right now. I mean, when that runs out, it's hard to come by, but I'll tell you, there's no shortage of construction in the city when you look at where the properties are.
So it's a volume thing, Keith, right?
Yeah, it's tough to find land.
It's a volume thing, right?
That's where your family's at, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, you know that well.
I know it real well.
I do.
My brother-in-law lives
right
out that way.
Well, I wasn't going to say who,
Yeah.
but he's watching.
He's
All right, so this is another question. Jerry, can you ask this to Keith and Keith? We're trying to remodel our homes, and the guys we're talking to are 14 months out at best. Is that going to continue going into 2021, gentlemen?
So the other one was a quick no. This is a quick yes.
You're just like, absolutely, this will continue. It's crazy.
Yeah. And and Keith, we've talked about this on the show numerous times. Not only do we have a lumber cost problem, but what we really have, and nobody's really talking about,
labor.
There you go.
Yeah, labor.
Skilled labor, right? Skilled labor, and folks that are doing it. It's just they just don't do it. It's just not out there. So we talk about this. My little brother is a trim carpenter in Richmond, right? We call him Doctor because he makes more money than a doctor does. Shows up with his little bag, does his 6-piece crown molding, his tools. Nobody messes with him. He's got, he's backlogged from now to the end of time on that stuff. But that's the real problem. And we're not ramping up skilled laborers or skilled workers or trades folks to fill in some of these slots. So it becomes to me, that's a bigger issue than lumber.
You're going to love this comment right here, Keith Smith. This is coming from Tim, who's watching in Belmont. He watches all our shows.
Hey, Tim.
He says, you guys have gone almost an entire show without bringing up one of Keith's favorite, and I'm assuming he means you, one of Keith Smith's favorite terms, the missing middle, the millennial buyer. Do you guys want to talk about that now?
This dude is awesome.
He watches the shows. He's
awesome.
Talking about the missing middle, the millennial buyer. Do you want to tackle that, or should we throw that to Davis?
Well, let me kick it off a little bit. So the missing middle actually has two parts to the term. One is the millennial buyer, but it's also product driven, right? So the missing middle is somewhere between an apartment and a single-family detached. There's this missing middle product and missing middle buyer, and it dovetails a little bit, but he's spot on. And I belong to a national cohort that we're trying to attack that. But it kind of comes back to when I got my hair cut. I was talking to he said, well, we were talking about, Keith, how back in 2008, 2009, the builders were building over 2 million units. Then it dropped down to 400, 500, 600, 700. So we're roughly 3.3 million new construction units short as we're standing right now. And he goes, well, just go out and build them. And I went, well, it's not that simple, right? It takes, years and years and years to get through this thing and put it on. But to me, that's this red tape, green tape thing needs to get fixed to address this missing middle. But thank you for the question.
We got anything you want to add to that, Keith Davis?
No. I mean, Look, I think the buyers are there. I'm with Keith. It's a product question. It's a pricing question, and unfortunately it's going deeper and deeper into the higher and higher incomes that I think we're missing on product. But it's that's part of the shortage of land. It's part of the shortage of materials and labor, and everything's getting more expensive. I mean, the average prices we're seeing on new construction, it's becoming astronomical.
It's staggering, actually.
Michael Guthrie watching the
Michael.
program. Michael Guthrie, CEO, Roy Wheeler. Roy Wheeler, trust the name in the game.
The man,
Michael
the myth, the
Guthrie
legend.
says, Keith and Keith, new home sales only slow down if prices get prohibited because of materials and labor costs going up. So that echoes kind of what you guys are saying.
Well, it's and he's spot on, as he usually is, as he always is. Actually, the reality of it is it's two items going into this funnel, right? And you've got new construction kind of jamming it up, and as that jams it up, so does the resale. So it's it's both sides of the house. There's just not enough inventory.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to fit through this funnel and pop out at the end. And we're probably not going to get to it's a mistake to sell your house on your own, but one of the key things about that is hiring somebody from Roy Wheel or somebody from Nest or Keith and Yonna Smith, because we can help you navigate this, particularly in a multiple offer situation. How does that work? So anyway, thank you, Michael, for the chime in.
What do you think, Keith Davis?
Yeah, I mean, my only thing to add to Michael is he's spot on, right? And he's bringing up what we talk about pretty frequently, which is, the reality is a builder who looks at rising material prices, rising labor prices, and rising land prices. You put those three together and the house gets more expensive. One of two things is going to happen. Buyers are going to have to pay more money, or builders are simply going to say, I'm not building this year. We're not going to take on, right? I mean, this is the really fascinating thing that's happened really since about 2005 in Charlottesville. Is we don't have many builders building spec properties, right? Building houses by their own standards, hoping to sell it down the road. And instead, we're not building a house until we have a buyer. And so those builders are, they're going to put a price tag out there, and if a buyer doesn't want it, they're going to say, well, I'd rather not build it because I'm going to lose money on you. So they can turn off their spigot in terms of the selling. The seller of a house who has been relocated for a job, they've got to sell their property. So prices can drop, or prices may not rise as quickly for that person. And what happens is there becomes a spread between the builder, who continues to ask more and more and more, and the seller, who is barely going up. And suddenly this gap happens, and that is when new construction slows down. So we're not close to seeing it. We're not feeling it. We're still seeing new construction houses, booking 14 months out. So
the push and pull on that.
Looking at your watch, Jerry. Come on, man.
No. I was actually looking at my shirt, and I want to make sure it wasn't wrinkled on the playback on the camera.
Talking as fast as I can.
Your friends at Stony Point are watching the broadcast as we speak, and more questions are coming in for you guys.
Let me tackle this real quick, if you don't mind. So, what I think what's going to happen here is there's this yin and yang thing. This is up and down scenario. So, yes, new construction is going to go up, but as long as that interest rates are staying artificial, and my opinion, I think they're artificially low, right? They're
definitely artificially low.
Yeah.
They're under 3%.
Yeah, they're artificially
low. Of course they're
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing.
I'm wearing.
There's nothing.
So in case anybody's wondering, I am wearing my Captain Obvious.
Yeah, they're under 3%.
Sorry to talk over you there, Keith. So I'm wearing my Captain Obvious socks. So that was a Captain Obvious statement. But look, the reality of it is, I think as long as interest rates stay a little to the basement that they are at the moment, and even if construction goes up just a little bit, there's enough to offset that. I think once you start seeing, we know new construction is going to go up. We just know that. And we also know that the interest rates at some point are going to go up. And I think when you start getting both of those trending in the up direction, that's when you're going to see a real tightening on the new construction. I think what Michael may be saying, and I may be wrong.
Michael's also saying this: let's not forget the impact the fires and the hurricanes are having on the supply chain as well.
So I was going to add to that. So I've been doing this for a little over 3 decades, and I've seen these cyclical prices up and down. It happens, right? It's not COVID, but typically there's hurricanes, and if you do a little bit of homework on this, Keith, and you take a look at this lumber tariff thing, it's actually been going on since the 80s. This isn't something just new. This Canadian, that's the real reason why the lumber is so high. It's because of this tariff war that's been going on.
We have Laura's watching. She's an agent in Buckhead in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey,
watching the program here.
Atlanta.
Yeah,
thank you.
I'm a UVA graduate, Jerry. I love this show. I in particular love the real estate show as it is what I do professionally. Can you ask Keith and Keith their thoughts on folks from densely urban environments coming to places like Charlottesville in 2021? We are certainly seeing this in our area, and we're certainly considering this as 2 UVA graduates, my husband and I, looking to find a different place that's a little less commotion for our family.
So, hey, Keith, before you answer that, because I'll let you take that, it just popped in my head.
Buckhead, right there.
We should open up a law firm. Keith and Keith. That just sounds like a law firm.
Davis and Smith. There you go.
There you go. Hey, tackle that, Keith. Keith D.
So yeah, I mean, Laura, I think you're asking a fantastic question for this year. COVID has changed everything, right? There are numerous market reports that we've read in the last couple of weeks about the demise of the New York market, of apartment numbers being way up in terms of occupancy, or the occupancy rates are dropping rather in New York on their apartments. This morning there was an article in the Inman News that said that 28, and I'm not sure exactly where. First off, let me just a caveat: I don't know where they got this number exactly, but that 28% of moves this year have been predicated by people wanting to be in a safer location. Yeah. That's a huge number. Now, I think if we get a vaccine, if we get to the point where we can start heading back into our offices on a regular basis and have full occupancy at the offices, it's going to halt this. I don't think this is a long-term permanent trend. The way that the demographic shift of the millennials saying we want to be back in city centers. I think people still want to be part of a community, and I don't think that COVID is killing off our desire to be a part of a community. I do think that it has made us question whether we need to be in our crowded New York offices or whether we'd rather be, in a shared work environment outside of Midtown Atlanta. If you want to be over in the Ponce City market, have access to these fantastic amenities, but not be in a high rise in downtown New York, I think that question maybe will become more relevant. But I think that I think it's going to continue impacting us through 2021. I don't think we're going to suddenly see the demise of cities in a long-term question. I'd like to think this is just a temporary hold on our current health status. But
we ought to make a bet about that.
For it.
Keith D, you and I ought to make a bet
What's
about
the bet?
that because I think it is a long-term impact
To cities.
I think it is. I really do.
Really? Well, what would the bet be?
The question, I'm all for bets on this one, Keith, but the question is, how far out do we have to go before the bet can be realized, right? I mean, I don't think this is a 12-month question. This is 36, 48 months before we know if there's real impact.
Well, I'm not going anywhere. Are you?
Well, I mean, we're in a good spot here. He's talking about New York City right there.
Yeah,
Someone
no,
like
he's
this
talking
said-
about time. He's talking about, does it change 12 months from now, 24 months now, or 36 months from now? But I think, and the only reason I know that is I've got family and I've got people in the city, and everybody that I'm talking to in the city, and my sister's an interior decorator in the city, and does only upper end, real upper end stuff, and she says it's just, how's work? How you doing? She's just, everybody's just moving out. Now, here's the caveat to that. The upper end market, where are they moving out to?
What are they going to the Hamptons?
They're going out to their second home.
Yeah.
Shut down home number one, go out to second home, work out there, do whatever they're going to do.
Zoom from there.
So from Keith's perspective, I think when this is all over, they'll just leave their second home and you go out. But you know that because you have family in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
There's people still there. That's not normal.
Yeah.
Yonna and I Michael Guthrie was just down in Cape Charles recently. Yonna and I were down there also. Normally you hit September and people are gone. And it's packed. Yonna and I were going to try to sneak away this weekend to Cape Charles to a little bed and breakfast. We like to stay down there, and it's booked solid. That's never the case after September.
Another good question for both you guys. You've talked about this, so I'll throw this to Keith Davis. How is the election going to impact the market, Keith Davis? Second part of the question, when interest rates start going back up again, will it be a gradual climb or will it be a big increase that we're not prepared for?
How's the election going to impact the market is, it's funny. The equity markets tend to respond before things happen, right? They tend to kind of take account for what's expected. And I'll be honest with you, I'm really surprised that we haven't seen more of a move in the equity market. I think there has to be uncertainty in terms of corporate profitability, given where the current polls show the election to be. There's certainly going to be a shakeup in the tax structure if Biden wins this, and I think that absolutely has an impact on interest rates, on everything else that goes with it. So, is it going to be immediate? Is it going to be quick? I think there's a lot of time between November 3rd and January 20th, and a lot can happen between then that's unknown at this point. I wouldn't want to try and make predictions about how our government can and will run for a 90-day period, or however long that is. That's a great question. I mean, look, crystal ball, right? But I do think we're going to see higher interest rates. It's just a question of if it's spiking. I don't think it'll spike hard, because if you go to 5% overnight, everything halts. Yeah. Despite the fact that 5% is crazy low, yeah, sure. Everything halts because you just made things 40% more expensive, and that's not sustainable.
I mean, if Michael's still watching,
Michael is watching.
Michael's been in this business longer than any of us, at least the two of us talking here. Look, I did a bunch of research historically.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So what happens is, you'll see a kind of typically historically a bit of a dip in October and November, because everybody's kind of saying, just like we're talking about, what the hell's going to happen, to be honest. But then there's this pent up demand that kind of spikes up, and it depends on which side wins, right? So if one color wins, the areas that are that color tend to grow, and one area that's a different color, they tend to grow.
You're talking red and blue.
That's exactly right. So there's some migration that's going to happen one way or the other. But Keith's spot on. About the interest rate, a spike. Oh my God, 5%. Oh my God, right? But the reality of it is, I've never, in the 30 years I've been doing this, ever heard anybody from the Fed or anybody project that interest rates are going to stay at a certain rate.
For an extended period of time.
For an extended period of time.
That's
Have you
right.
ever heard that,
Keith, before?
Doing. Have you ever heard that, Keith, before?
What do you think, Keith Davis?
No. I mean, look, nobody. I don't think the current administration is going to admit that they've falsely kept interest rates low, right? I mean, that's just not in their best interest to admit. But the reality is, there is nothing about our current economy that demands a 3% interest rate or below for a 30-year mortgage. This is about what the government's paying on 10-year bonds, and it doesn't make sense where it is. It needs to be higher. It should be higher. We should be. We should be at a, and I think most people or buyers know it. That's why they're willing to take advantage of this current environment, and why we're seeing so much
I know,
demand.
Keith, I'd have to disagree with you, buddy. I had a conversation yesterday that I had to educate a buyer that now's really the time to do this. They think it's going to go substantially lower.
The interest rates?
Yeah.
Really? How is that possible?
How can it be substantial?
Yeah.
Well, the age group I was talking to kind of doesn't remember the history, right? So I had to give them a bit of an education.
If it goes any lower, the banks would be paying us money to hold the money.
And that's happening in some European countries.
Right, but we don't want that to happen.
No.
That's not good for our economy if that happens.
So I'll tell a story about that. So 2006. So middle of my development, yada, yada, yada. I'm sitting in my office, and my lender that I was using walks in, starts pitching to me to borrow a $10 million note, and he was going to pay me to do that. And I went, what?
That's when the red flags go up.
And I literally kicked him out of the office. Get the hell out of here. I'm not going to do that. That's not sustainable. I'm not going to do that. Now, this was a couple of years before everything imploded. But yeah, I mean, it's just, so that's a man, if that starts happening.
We don't want that to happen.
Yeah, that's a bad.
Can I throw this to you, Keith? Can you make a legitimate argument, and this is coming in on the feed here, can you make a legitimate argument that increased rates may actually be good for this economy and what we need?
I mean, that is a enormous question. When you say good for this economy, I'm assuming that the viewer is not asking about the Charlottesville real estate market.
Macro.
They're talking about yeah. I mean, look, with interest rates where they are, savings rates are lower. People aren't gaining net worth the way they are. As long as interest rates should reflect the risk of the environment, right? The future economic environment. If we are really saying that there's going to be so little growth that 3% makes sense, that people who are investors with real money at real risk are investing it at 3% for 30 years, they are not expecting our economy to grow one iota. And that is a really bad statement about where our country is. I would much rather see us at 5-7% with legit growth in business, in real wages, in employment, in output. All of that is reflective of, higher interest rates allow it. The fact that we continue to push interest rates down and down and down in order to sustain a modicum of growth in our market, the GDP needs more. We've got to do something as a country to get the GDP back up. And the interest rate is not what drives it; it's what reflects what's actually happening in the market right now. So
you have four current or former car presidents watching you guys right now. Michael Guthrie, lenders say even into the spring of 2021, the rates will still have a 3 in front of it.
I agree.
Guthrie says the market will continue to be strong because people will not be traveling as much over these holidays.
No, he's spot on. I was just about ready to. We've got some virtual chemistry going on. If it's got a 3 in front of it, we're going to be fine. But if it starts climbing up, it's only going to make this worse because the people that have been waiting on the sidelines are going to want to get in. And what I mean by make it worse is going to make this inventory worse. Right now, from 10/1 to date, there's 129 homes active. 154 went into pending. So it's just upside down. There's more coming off than there's going on. If that interest rates goes up a little bit, just enough. I may be wrong, but I've seen this happen before. When interest rates go up, all of a sudden everybody. The guy that I had a conversation with yesterday that I can't get to go look at houses, I guarantee you, as soon as it goes up a little bit to a certain magic number that he has in his head, he's going to say, "Let's go buy now. Let's go buy now." And then I'm going to say, "Great, what are we going to buy?" Right?
He's just going to have more competition.
He's going to have more competition.
Yeah. Keith Davis, why don't you get us out of here on anywhere you want to go? Final word, anything you want to talk about. You killed it today, Keith Davis.
I'm just going to say 2 things. Number one, I think it's great that we've got 4 past car presidents watching. I think it's even better that we've got 8 future car presidents watching. And I think that's the big question, right? Is it where is this whole market going? Who's going to be the impact? I think that's the fun stuff to watch. I think we have got, this has been a delightful conversation. And Keith, I can read the email if you all want to see the one that says, "Can you join me on the Jerry Miller Show for 20 minutes?"
Yeah.
We're on an hour 10 right now. So I think we've probably talked more than we should have, but I'm impressed people are still watching. This is kind of fun. While you're reading your comments, I'm going to read the ones that I'm getting off of my phone as well. Some good memes that some people have sent me about the show, but more importantly is the fact that Georgia Lindsay does write and say, "No, please do not open a law firm called Keith and Keith." So I'll give Georgia my call out on that one. But no, it's been awesome. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate all the time and conversation on this.
Oh, I thought you were going to read some stuff off your feed there real quick. Other than the Lindsay.
No, it's just Georgia saying we shouldn't open a law firm, which I think is probably a wise mentorship.
I would think so, considering neither one of us have a law degree.
And she's come on the show. She's awesome.
Yeah.
Keith Davis, you have a good day.
Hey, thank you for giving us an hour of your time, man.
All right, guys. You all have a good one.
All right,
Thanks
take
a lot.
care. Bye,
Enjoy your day.
He brought some good knowledge right there.
I'm excited, man. We've been doing this now for, it seems like the last couple of months. I get up and do all this super planning for a discussion, and then all of a sudden the feed takes us a different way. And I have to tell you, that's super exciting for me.
Michael Guthrie, you also have many Blue Ridge Home Builders Association leaders watching the show. Be mindful. BRHBA. That's what I'm talking about, right?
Blue Ridge Home Builders Association.
Okay. A lot of those folks watching. Nikki Chambliss, welcome to the broadcast. I really do like when the feed takes this direction.
Man, I love it. And as far as being mindful goes...
your boy Quentin Beckham, you guys are worth watching, start to finish.
There you go. As far as being mindful is concerned, it's...
Love you too, Tom Woolfolk.
There you go. I love when I can't see the feed and just respond to questions.
Well, I mean, it's great this way. It makes it interactive.
I was doing a little Googling because maybe this is a little bit narcissistic, but you didn't think I knew that big word.
Oh, come on.
But
what were you Googling?
Other shows similar to this.
There's none.
There's literally none.
Yeah.
And there's some that are similar, right? That are like me and you would just get there and say stuff, right? This two-way interaction,
Yeah.
at least I couldn't find any. So I'm pretty excited about it.
I mean, you had people from Buckhead in Atlanta asking you questions.
Wow, that's freaking
Richmond,
awesome.
Virginia. Nikki Chambliss, thanks, Jerry. I love hearing the discussions about the numbers in the market. That's why I tune into the show.
I thought it was a Batman and Robin routine.
I mean, the get a guy like a giant like Keith Davis, who really is at the top of his game, and then you and I bantering him on the Skype, and then we just get questions from whoever's watching.
So I really, because he worked us into his schedule. I promise you.
I know. We
I
went in
promise you. I
He
promise
made
you.
sure to let us know that.
He made sure to let us know that. So the next time I invite him, I got to remember.
Keith Davis,
remember to
thank
do
you,
that.
my friend. Keith Smith, anything else you want to cover?
No, let's just be kind to
This was a
one
good
another.
show.
Thank you. Let's be kind to one another. Let's go out there and buy some homes and sell some homes and put some homes on the market. It's desperately needed. The inventory is low. Interest rates are low. Let's get out there and do this, folks.
Oh, I didn't even get to the Instagram comments. I'm sorry, Instagram. There were too many Facebook
I saw something
comments.
about a zombie in there
Oh,
earlier.
I'm sorry, Instagram. I didn't get to these comments here. Why don't I save some of these till next week? Is that all right with you?
You've got another show to do, my
I
friend.
do.
And Judah's giving me the stink eye over here. So
Do we still have the video to play? We do, don't
no. We
Are you sure?
Yeah. No worries.
Okay.
No worries.
Okay.
No worries.
Instagram, we'll get to those comments next time. Thank you guys for watching on Instagram and Facebook. My friend, great show.
A great show. Thank you very much. I just thankful for.
11:32.
Yeah, I know. So let's go. We're done.
It's 11:32. I didn't even realize until Davis said something.
I didn't realize it either. And
Keith Davis, that's how good you were. Neither of us realized the time until you said, we've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes.
and if we don't get off now,
Yeah,
we'll
we
do
will
this for
keep
another
going.
for another hour.
We will
So
go to 1:30.
Goodbye, everybody.
You guys have a good one. This is Real Talk presented by the
Have a
Yes
good
Team
weekend.
Realtors. One day, this is a crazy idea, and I'm not sure. I
I'm
regret
trying to get
saying
you
this.
off.
What if
Judah,
we just
I'm
did a
trying to do it,
10:15 to 1:30 straight? I don't know. That's a crazy idea.
Excuse me for a second.
Judah's like, are you joking?
Judah, how do you feel about that?
Hey, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. He's just a very easygoing guy. Real Talk presented by the Yes Team Realtors, trusted advisors in the game. Yes Team Realtors, honest, integrity, character, hardworking. The Yes Team Realtors. He's Keith Smith. This gentleman's Judah Wickower. Studio cam so we can get to the back of your head. And can you just wave your hand up in the air so everyone can see it? Let's all wave. Studio camera. Thank you for joining us. You guys have a good weekend.
And that's Jerry Miller.
I'm Jerry. You guys have a good weekend. We'll see you in a little bit. Keep it local, shop local, support
who do you
local,
have on
be
it?
local.
Who do you
Just
have
me
on?
today.
Really?
Just me. You guys have a good afternoon. Take care.